everyone. This is Pamela Topchian. Welcome to Holistic Connections, Conversations with Holistic Practitioners. And today I have Craig, and I will let you introduce yourself and share what you do in the holistic healing world.
Oh, thank you, Pamela. And I'm excited to be here today for the main part because one, we're going to talk about hypnotherapy.
Yeah.
I'm a hypnotherapist and you're a hypnotherapist. And
Yes.
so it's exciting. I've been looking forward to this because a lot of times I've been on some podcasts over this last year or so, and it's generally me explaining to somebody who's not familiar with it or wants more
Right.
information, or to have somebody actually work with it is going to be a fun conversation. And
Yeah.
so I've been looking forward to this. But I'm a hypnotherapist, and I live in Flagstaff, Arizona, and that's a smaller town. And it's
Hmm.
really with the advent of everybody being accepting Zoom sessions. I've been fortunate enough to be able to work with people around the country and around the world. And we're using this modality of therapeutic hypnosis. And I think we can go a little bit deeper in that. My,
Yeah.
personal story is just, I think, as a lot of people's story who get into the healing world, is through my own hurt and pain.
Yeah.
I found hypnotherapy helped me a lot. And, down the line, I was so fascinated by consciousness and, the aspect of holding on to hurt and pain as a form of protection, a form of armoring yourself. And yet, in the long run, it exhausting the body and exhausting the spirit and
Yeah.
exhausting emotions. And is there a way of dealing with that? And through my own healing, I found hypnotherapy, among some other techniques that I use, was extraordinary because what I find fascinating about this is that, and I'm sure this is your experience too, Pamela. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but in terms of if people haven't experienced this type of healing, is I'm not there to heal anybody. I'm not going to fix anybody, and
Right.
hypnotherapy in and of itself doesn't fix anybody. You fix yourself.
Yeah.
And Dr. Irving Kirsch calls hypnotherapy a non-deceptive placebo,
Mm.
meaning that we all know, I've heard of the research that maybe like a pharmaceutical company will do, is half the people will get the sugar pill. And the reason why they do that is because they know mind will heal the body. And they actually have to account for that in their research, because
Hmm.
of the way when they're talking to the volunteers who are going to be taking this medication, let's say it's high blood pressure medication, the way they describe the medication, the way to describe the research in and of itself, the brochure that people are reading, the waiver people are signing, this can all influence people to potentially heal themselves.
Yeah.
People have been hooked up to biofeedback equipment and, in terms of blood pressure and watching the brain, how it works and all
Hmm.
this kind of stuff, and find that as they're driving to the doctor, they're starting to get better because they know they're going somewhere where they're going to find healing. So we know mind will heal the body. There's an aspect of that. So research companies have to account for that because they may be influencing through language, through lab people wearing the white coats, that the environment they're in, that they may start healing themselves, the placebo effect. So they have to account for that. Half the group's going to get the sugar pill, the other half is going to get the real medication. Let's say 30% of the people with the uh, sugar pill get better. They've healed it themselves.
Hmm.
Let's say 40% get better with the real medication. Well, they have to subtract 30% because maybe they've influenced those
Right.
people as well
There's no
to
way to
heal
know,
themselves.
right?
So yeah, so let's cut that 30% out. Really only 10% got better on the medication. That's fine. We'll put it on the market at $80 a pill. But it's extraordinary that more people actually healed themselves
Hmm.
through uh, mind and
Right.
that connection to body. And of course, that's not there's no real way to patent that, your subconscious mind. There's no real way to copyright or trademark it. So it's better for the bottom line, to do the pill. But it's extraordinary what the mind and body can do. And so Dr. Irving Kirsch calling hypnotherapy a non-deceptive placebo, meaning we're not going to
Mhm.
trick you into doing it.
Right,
We're
right.
not going to trick you saying, oh, this pill is going to heal you of all your symptoms and your pain. It's like, no, you're going to do it yourself. And
Yeah,
again, not through me and not through the techniques themselves, but by using these tools
yeah,
to access the subconscious. So,
yeah. Guiding someone into themselves to heal
yeah,
within themselves, just
yeah,
being the guide or the facilitator. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
love how
good.
you have explained that. And I want to ask you, what do you think are some misconceptions? Because there's so many misconceptions,
Yeah.
myths out there about hypnosis and hypnotherapy. So, do you get some of that when you have new
Oh,
clients coming in or?
yeah, it's been and I'm sure as you probably know yourself, you've been doing this for many years. It's a bit of a struggle and a
Yes.
frustration and a disappointment to consistently have to tell people about this modality and how wonderful it is. And I'm happy to have a consultation call with
Yeah.
people and discuss it with them, but you don't see that with a lot of the other modalities out there. You don't
Right.
see a lot of talk therapists doing free consultations to allay people of their fears of this modality. You don't see massage therapists doing that,
Right.
physical therapists, yoga instructors. And so it gets frustrating that year after year, they're still having to allay the same concerns.
Right.
And I think one of them is just that loss of control.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I understand that there's the movies, the TV shows,
Mm-hmm.
Las Vegas show, the entertainment shows, and I get it that there's perception that you'll lose control, but really, if you look at it, if you step outside of it and you look at it as an interested observer from afar, you're already have lost control. If somebody's struggling with some chronic anxiety or some anger, whatever
Yeah.
the situation may be, maybe even some back pain that's associated with an old emotional upset trauma, you've already lost control.
Yeah.
Automatically, you are reacting to the world in a way that is out of your conscious awareness. And so by the end of the day, you're just angry or the anxiety is coming up and you can't even point out why that
Yeah.
happened. Just happened. You are out of control already. So in a sense, you've already hypnotized yourself to grab that cigarette when stressed or
Mm-hmm.
to grab that drink or to feel that pain in your body. So in a sense, you've already hypnotized yourself to
Right.
automatically react to your world, to the experiences you're having in the world in a way that is maybe not very resourceful, resilient, or even harmful to you. Again, the smoking, the drinking, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So already you've probably already hypnotized yourself to automatically have these behaviors, the actions. So a lot of this work really is dehypnotizing people.
Right.
But in terms of misconceptions, is one, yes, it's giving you back control over that stress, that anxiety, that anger, that trauma. But I get it. There's these shows that you see in comedy clubs or in Las Vegas.
Yeah. Stage
But
hypnosis. Yeah.
yeah, and I think
Mm-hmm.
it's fun. I've seen a couple of those shows. They're
Right.
amusing, I guess. And there's videos on YouTube people can watch. But
Mm-hmm.
what's fascinating about this is this work is really all about somebody's intention.
Yeah.
And in terms of the control, I can't make anybody, Pamela, you know, you can't make anybody do anything they
Right.
don't want to do.
Exactly.
That's why smoking cessation, when somebody wants to come in to quit smoking, it's not a 100% guarantee because maybe they actually don't want to quit smoking. Maybe their wife or husband scheduled the appointment because they're tired of
Right.
the smoke and the smell and the expense. And there's her, you're stopping smoking now. I've had enough of this.
Right. Right.
And they don't want to stop. So maybe they're using it as a ploy to negotiate smoking in the garage, you
Right.
know,
Right.
or which happened to one of my instructors when I went to the Hypnotherapy Academy of America. It was like he told that story. Someone paid big money just so he could negotiate with his wife to smoke in the garage
Oh my
because he
goodness.
didn't want to quit.
Right.
And so he
Right.
didn't. Otherwise, we'd be able to go into bars and Las Vegas casinos and everybody would quit smoking. Snappy,
Yeah.
snappy, wavy, wavy, everybody would quit smoking
Right.
and improve their health and the world and all this.
Right.
We'd be able to go into prisons and hypnotize everybody to be law-abiding, upstanding citizens. We'd be able to go, hypnotize our way into the UN and hypnotize
Yeah.
all of them to create world peace,
Yeah.
but
That
I'd
would
be
be
able to
nice, huh?
hypnotize, yeah, we'd be able to hypnotize Elon Musk to write me a billion dollar check.
Right.
But the reason I don't have $1 billion check from Elon Musk is because he doesn't want to write me one.
Right.
And so it doesn't matter how talented or skilled I am
Hmm.
as a hypnotherapist, uh, he's not going to do that. So
Right.
back to a show. If it's all about your intention, understand that with those shows, everybody that gets up on the stage volunteered to be up there. They bought a
Yeah.
ticket to the show. They sat down in their seat when the hypnotist comes on. Hey, everybody, we're here to have a fun time and a great night out. Who wants to come up on stage and have a really great time? There's a bunch of people who raised their hands
Yeah. A lot of
because
people
they're
came there just
exhibitionists.
for that because
Yeah,
they were
they
hoping to get
they
up there.
exactly.
Yeah.
They went there specifically not to be an audience member, but to
Hmm.
be up on stage. Now, assuming
Yeah.
it's not a trick. They set it up in advance with the local
Right.
improv troupe or whatever, assuming that everybody, because I've seen those kind of shows. I
Hmm.
in a hypnotherapy conference, somebody did an entertainment show. They pulled hypnotherapists from the audience, so it wasn't a setup.
Right.
It was just people having fun,
Yeah.
and the people who get up to do the show want to do the show. They want to dance like Michael Jackson. They want to sing like Elvis. They want to bark like dogs and quack like ducks because they think it's funny
Right.
and they want a
Right.
funny video to put on
Entertaining. Yeah.
Instagram. Yeah, they want to entertain their friends. So their intention is to entertain, and so they do. And look at them at the end; they have a big smile on their face. So
Yeah.
even those aspects of the entertainment side of it, like, oh, I don't want people to make me quack like a duck or cluck like a chicken or dance like Michael Jackson and moonwalk. It's like nobody can make you do that. There's even those videos I've seen of there's just these quick little 2-minute videos that you
Hmm.
see on Instagram, and somebody walks up to somebody on the street and is like, sleep. And it's like, that's a setup. You
Hmm.
can't
Yeah.
try it. I dare you to try walk up
Right.
somebody on the street and just yell at them sleep and see what happens. You're probably going to get punched in the nose because it's
Right.
weird and strange. And it's like you just can't, make somebody fall over like that. That's a
Right.
setup. And it's a bunch of actors kind of just playing out for a video they're trying to make
For
go
views
viral.
and
So,
clicks.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so this aspect of like trying to hypnotize Jason Bourne to assassinate the prime minister is it's not the way it works.
Mm.
And this is a great, amazing healing modality that just uses pretty much what you're doing already in your life.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean moving the consciousness in and out of consciousness, really. It's that aspect of your day when, if you've ever been in a meeting, a really boring meeting, maybe you remember back in high school math class, where you just kind of start staring out the window, you're bored,
Yeah.
and you move inward. You start thinking about the future, remembering the past. Maybe this weekend is going to be so much fun because you're going to hang out with your friends, and you've turned off the external world. You're back in high school math class, the teacher's still talking and writing the equation on, but you should be paying attention because you need to do well in the test. But
But your
it's
mind
so
is just
boring, you just start,
wandering. Yeah.
yeah, your mind wanders and you start going in that
Yeah.
daydreamy state. Well, you've just altered your state of consciousness. Now that
Hmm.
sounds weird and strange, but it's like,
Yep.
really, you're just slowing down brainwave state.
Right.
You move from the consciousness level of beta down to the more daydreamy state of alpha.
Yeah.
And then pretty soon, maybe I'm back in high school math class and my eyes start to droop down and my head starts to nod down and I'm not really asleep and I'm not really awake. And now moving down to theta, I'm slowing down how my brain cells are connecting and firing together.
Hmm.
So now I went from like beta consciousness from 18 cycles per second down to alpha to 12 cycles per second. Now I'm 6 cycles per second. I'm going to fall asleep here pretty soon. And then the teacher says, "Hey, Craig, why don't you come up here and do the problem on the board?" And I just wake up,
Right. Snaps you out
kind
of
of
it.
startled away. Yeah, and everybody's staring at me and I'm embarrassed because I don't know how to do the problem on the board. And now I'm stressed
Hmm.
and I'm firing at 30 cycles per second. So I just altered my state of consciousness 3 or 4
Yeah.
times in a matter of 5 minutes, just in high school math class. That thing of driving home and you start
Hmm.
thinking about the meeting you got at work tomorrow, or you got family coming over on the weekend, and you start thinking about all these things. All of a sudden, you're in your driveway or your parking spot or your garage, and you don't remember the last 5 or 6 blocks.
Yeah.
Well, just like tying your shoes or riding a bicycle or zipping up your jacket, your subconscious mind took over the driving because you've driven home so many times, probably
Right.
thousands of times if you've lived there a long time, 365 days a year. If you've lived there 3, 4, 5 years, you've driven home thousands of times.
Yeah.
So it knows how to drive home, just like it knows how to tie your shoes and ride a bicycle, drive a stick shift maybe or whatever, play the guitar. It knows how to do these things because you've practiced. And so your mind was able to move to another issue, a problem maybe at work,
Hmm.
or the issue of family coming over for
Right.
Thanksgiving or the weekend visit or something. And your subconscious mind took over driving. Your conscious mind altered its state of consciousness to think about the future. We do this all the time, all day
Right.
long, in and out, in and out, in and out. Most noticeable when we're falling asleep or waking up. And so we're not doing anything different in hypnosis than
Right.
you're or not or than you're already doing. We're just taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
know from the placebo effect you can heal through
Hmm.
mind. We know that during your day you're going to alter your state of consciousness multiple times by moving down to that daydreamy state of alpha, maybe even
Yeah.
theta. So all we're doing is taking advantage of that and using it for specific focused healing.
Yeah.
You may not even know what the healing is. I've had people who
Right.
fill out my intake form. They might just write one word, anxiety.
Yeah.
Well, you know what that means. And
Yeah.
you know the deeper meaning of it. Yeah, maybe it's behind the veil of the unconscious part of mind, but you know why you're creating it. It takes a lot of effort to create the
Yeah.
stress response, the fight or flight stress response. Brain has to start creating the adrenaline and cortisol, 300% more blood moving big muscles of the arms and legs to fight and to escape. That's got to come from somewhere. So it's training on the power of your immune system, your digestive system. And so it takes a lot of effort to
Yeah.
create that armoring of the fight or flight response. So your subconscious mind knows why it's doing it.
Yeah.
It doesn't want to work that hard.
Right. Right.
It spends too much energy. So it must
Yeah.
be doing it for a reason on purpose. Be unconscious, but you know why you're doing it. So, and that's the power of this. And
Yep.
the difference between, say, this and talk therapy, which is very
Hmm.
important. I'm not, I don't want to disparage talk therapy or anything.
Right.
I think it's important to have that as a tool in your toolbox. But sometimes I think people find themselves spinning their wheels because they don't know what the problem is, or they don't know what the root
Yeah.
cause or what the core issue really is, because maybe it happened
Right.
50 years ago when they were 5 years old.
Right. That was something I was going to ask you. If
Mhm.
you find that a lot of people come to you for a specific issue and then come to find out it's much deeper than that, and they didn't ever even realize that until you help
Yeah.
them to go
Yeah.
within and to find those core issues or those things from, maybe childhood or somewhere in their past or we had mentioned past life regression. A lot of that can
Mm.
be things that come up in this lifetime too, that maybe they do have anxiety or they are, have other issues come up and they come to see you or any hypnotherapist to try to get help with that. And it ends up being something even
Mhm.
deeper and much more than just that one little thing they wrote down on the intake form.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a good chance that now it may be something like fear of flying.
Yeah.
Well, you can pretty much attach that to when that started. I
Yeah.
worked with people, of course, who have been in like terrible turbulence,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, that's got to be extraordinarily frightening.
Yeah.
But I've also worked with somebody who had never even flown before.
Mm.
But I don't know if you remember, some people may be of a certain age. I am of remembering one of the most extraordinary plane crashes in San Diego back in 1979, I believe it
Yep.
was.
Yep. In the late
And the one
70s.
that
Yep.
Lindbergh Field in San Diego is right in downtown. It's right in the middle of
Mm.
downtown. And it's because of this that they started building airports outside of the city limit. And
Mm.
that's why the airport's so far out of town nowadays. But the plane crashed and took out a bunch of
Yeah.
blocks of houses.
Yeah.
And so not only did the people on the plane, but also on the ground. Anyway, that happened when I was
Right.
in the sixth grade. And this woman I was working with, she wasn't born yet,
Mm-hmm.
but heard her parents who lived near it, not
Mm-hmm.
within the flight path, but near enough, talk about it
Yeah.
while she was growing up
Oh,
and the horror and the awfulness of it. And that alone was enough for her to fear getting on an airplane.
yeah. Yeah.
And
And
so
that
there's
makes
various
sense.
aspects
Yeah.
of that, but that's very specific. You may work with an athlete. I was working with a gymnast, gymnastics, and she had did something and she stepped off wrong. Did the
Mm,
kind of move you've done 1,000 times
yeah.
in practice and competition, and she just this one time, just kind of one half second off, and
Yeah.
kind of rolled her ankle, and now she was nervous about that move
Yeah.
the thing and that confidence and understandable. So there are sometimes where it's like, this is very specific.
Mm-hmm.
This fear of flying, this issue around maybe athletics
Right. And
or
they know where
nervousness
it
of a,
came from. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But some time ago, right during the COVID era, I was 2020, 2021, 2022, I was doing classes for the cancer support community of
Mm-hmm.
Arizona. And these were Zoom classes
Mm-hmm.
because I was an office had opened up in Flagstaff and we were doing in-person classes. And then right away, of course, they shut them down in early 2020 because
Mm.
you got cancer, you got a compromised immune system.
Yeah.
So we went to these Zoom classes. And so you're getting 12, 15 people during the series of classes and be about one evening would be pain control, and the next week would be healing acceleration, the next week would be immune system boosting, that kind of thing. And during one of the series of classes, there's an older woman, I'm guessing she's about 70,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, she came to the first two classes, And it was kind of class where it wasn't like a bunch of interaction because it was like, welcome everybody, appreciate you being here. Today we're going to work on pain control, a
Mm.
little bit of an introduction, then right into it.
Yeah,
And then at the end, if people wanted to hang and chat, but usually people, okay, we got to go.
right.
So it wasn't a lot of talking like you might get in a in-person workshop.
Mm-hmm.
But she came to the first two classes. On the third class, she was early, and I'm, there just, setting up the class and waiting for people to show up on Zoom. And we're chit-chatting about the weather and life and all this kind of stuff. And she asked me, "Oh, I wanted to ask you if hypnotherapy can work with procrastination." I say, yeah, that's a defense mechanism. That's a mindset issue.
Yeah.
Certainly, here in Arizona, at least I'm up in the mountains, northern Arizona, Flagstaff, but down
Mm-hmm.
south, you could be hiking out in nature, and there's a rattlesnake in the trail. That's a real possibility. You want to move away from that. You
Yeah.
want to keep yourself small and move away. This rattlesnake is not your friend, or a fight in the street, or
Yeah.
disaster coming, a natural disaster or something. And so that's a great defense mechanism, something you don't really want to get rid of.
Mm-hmm.
But when it becomes unresourceful, now you're moving away from something that could be beneficial to you, getting that report done on time to get the
Yeah.
promotion at work or get pass the class so you can actually
Mm-hmm.
graduate or whatever it may be. And so, yeah, that's a mindset issue. There's something going on there. You feel there's some danger with maybe
Yeah.
completing this task. So let's look at that. So we actually set up an appointment for the very next day because I had an afternoon appointment available.
Oh, nice.
And what's fascinating about this is I've noticed that when people realize they're going to be doing some healing work, that the gears start turning in the
Mm-hmm.
mind. They say, well, we can work on a problem, but why not just work on the problem?
Yeah.
And so when she showed up 24 hours later to the session on Zoom,
Yeah.
she says, told you I wanted to work on procrastination, but what I really want to work on is why I don't matter in life.
Oh.
And this is a 70-year-old woman who thinks she's
Oh my
worthless. She
goodness.
has nothing to offer. Yeah, it's horrid. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
well, yeah, we certainly work on that because there's a feeling state to that in the
Oh
body.
my goodness.
And
Yeah.
that feeling state, whether you call it anger or anxiety or fear or worry or worthlessness or that you don't matter, that feeling state in the body's created by chemistry it's in the brain,
Mm-hmm.
like anxiety created by the adrenaline, the
Yeah.
cortisol, and things like that. The only way to change brain chemistry in the way we're talking about right here is through a thought or a memory.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a direct connection between the feeling state in the body and the
Yeah.
thought or memory, even if it's unconscious, that is
Right.
creating it. So a lot of times it's just as easy or simple to follow the feeling state back to the very first time that person ever felt it, the
Yeah.
origins of that in the body. And so that's the work we started doing. And we get to the point where I'm going to count from 10 down to one. And by one, you'll be at the very first time you ever felt that.
Yeah.
And 10 down to one. And I'm saying, one, where are you? And she says, I'm standing up in my crib and my father's screaming at me because I won't stop crying.
Oh my
Now,
goodness. And she's
if she,
70.
yeah, it's
Oh
pretty
my
extraordinary
goodness.
because
Yeah.
I mean, if she's 70-ish years old, this
Yeah.
is the late 1950s, early
Mm-hmm.
1960s.
Mm-hmm.
And men back then maybe weren't exactly taught how to nurture young children.
Right.
Maybe dad's not the greatest person in the world, the
Yeah.
greatest father in the world. Maybe he's having a bad day, a bad week, a bad life.
Yeah.
Mom's out of the house, the baby's crying. He doesn't know what to do because no one showed him what to do.
Yeah.
And the only thing he can think of, because he just needs some peace and quiet, he just has to get through the evening and have some peace and quiet. So
Mm-hmm.
he yells at the baby to shut up. And in that instant, that child, like all of us, the child has to justify why this is happening.
Yeah.
And the child, that 1-year-old child, 14-month-old child,
Mm.
thinks, well, here's this person who's supposed to love me, protect me, nurture me, and they're screaming at me. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's been horrible. And so the way the subconscious mind justified why this is happening is, well, I guess I just don't matter in life.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
And whether that was just a one-off instant or that's how she had to grow up, maybe the best thing she could have done to keep herself safe as a child was to be small and to
Yeah.
keep her voice quiet and to hide.
Yeah.
Now, that's
Yeah.
not going to work in your 20s, 30s, 50s, 60s, 70s.
No. Yeah.
But unless you change the instructions,
Mm-hmm.
nothing's going to change. It's computer code. And
Yeah.
so that was the healing work we did. We walked in thinking, okay, we're going to work on some procrastination. and it ended up going all the way back 70 some years.
You just
And
never
that's where,
know.
yeah, and you
Yeah.
never know. And that's what's so extraordinary about this. And why I started off was I don't fix anybody.
Right, right.
Hypnotherapy in and of itself doesn't fix anybody. You know what the problem is, maybe
Yeah,
unconscious. But who remembers being 1 years old,
right.
or 18 months old or whatever it was. And so she installed those instructions on how to keep herself safe. Her
Hmm.
perception of a world needed to be a certain way so she felt safe in that world.
Yeah,
It must have been horrible growing up like
yeah,
that, but she came to a point where she said, this is done. I need to heal this. And she did.
yeah.
We'll
And
see
you
that.
helped to guide her there
Yeah.
to see where that first
Yeah. And
incident
and that's
came
And that's
into her
that's what's
mind.
extraordinary about this is it didn't take a lot of time. She
Yeah,
had three generalized group sessions over Zoom about pain control, healing,
yeah,
nothing that had to do with her situation that needed to be healed. And so she was like priming her nervous system,
right.
sort of like a little kid gets in a pool,
Yeah,
ankles to knees to waist and chest, and then you're
right.
swimming in a pool, and then if you feel safe, let's head over to the deep end.
Yes.
Three generalized group sessions and then
Hmm.
one session of the deeper work she needed to do, and that was it. I never saw her again. And
So
I check up
amazing.
on people and I email and say,
Sure.
"How are you doing?" And she'd email me, and over the course of a year, she's doing fantastic.
That's so great. Yeah, and
And
hypnotherapy, that's one thing I love about it is that there's almost nothing that it cannot help you with. Not to say that it's going to cure your diseases or anything. In whatever issue you're having, hypnotherapy can probably help you.
yeah, yeah,
If you want to be helped, like you said, if you really want to be helped, if you
yeah,
really, aren't getting some benefit from whatever you're going through, or
yeah,
have
and
made a deal with somebody else that this is something you need to work on.
yeah.
Yeah.
And this was extraordinary about it. Even if you don't really understand what the problem is, it's like
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been in talk therapy for 2 years. I
Yeah.
still hurt.
Yeah.
We've talked about everything. I don't know what the problem is. It's like I get it. I understand. And that's frustrating,
Yeah.
but you do know what the problem is. It's just behind that veil.
Yeah.
And that's the frustrating part of that can be with talk therapy is like, well, you're using your conscious mind
Hmm.
to pick apart the things you can remember.
Yeah.
But what's fascinating about our perception of reality is we're being inundated with 11 million bits of information per second. So just what we see, hear, taste, touch, smell,
Yeah.
temperature of the room, the lighting, like how dim or brighted it might be in a room, the sounds we may be hearing. And we're filtering out most of that stuff because we're only cognizant of 50 bits of that 11 million. So we don't notice the temperature of the room unless it's too hot or too cold.
Right.
We don't hear the sounds of maybe the ceiling fan or the heater or the air conditioner or the refrigerator turning on because it's just
It's
too low and
always
just
there. Yeah.
unnecessary. Unless there's that little screech,
You're right.
little
Something different that
yeah, someone's like,
happens.
wait a
Yeah.
minute, the refrigerator, what's going on? Do I need to
Right.
fix it? And or the ceiling fan about to fall out of the ceiling. And so we don't perceive that because we only perceive 50 bits. So what are we filtering out during
Yeah.
our lives? And that's why I tell people you can have all the happiness and joy and gratitude and feelings of worthiness that you
Hmm.
want, but you kind of have to change that perception because if you've been practicing being anxious and angry and resentful, then you're just going to get better at that. What you practice,
Yeah.
you get better at.
Right. Right.
So what I tell people is there's two parts to this. There's just
Yeah.
the deeper healing work we can do in a session, like I just described.
Hmm.
But then there's what are you practicing?
Yeah.
And I think we all know with our health, we don't get a break. It's
Yeah.
relentless about our physical health. What are you eating? What are you
Yeah.
drinking? What kind of exercise are you doing? You got to be doing something at least 3 or 4 times a week, and
Yeah.
not just you get to go to a personal trainer once and work out at the gym twice, and you're good for
Right.
50 years. It's like every
Right.
day. But also, it's like the Dalai Lama still meditates every day.
Hmm.
The man's 90, 91 years old, and so it's like, what are you doing for your mental and emotional health?
Right. I use the
And
analogy of a shower. You don't
mm,
shower once and then you're good, you're
yeah,
clean. It's a daily practice that you have to keep
yeah.
in mind.
And so
So,
this is a really huge topic of mind and
yeah.
consciousness and healing, and let alone getting into something on the more mystical, mysterious side, like
Yeah.
past life regression, when we're dealing with time. And I'm writing a past lives book right now
Are
and
you?
into the deeper
Awesome.
things of time and memory, and it's
Hmm.
mind bending, all the theories behind time and accessing time through memory and where is memory
Yeah.
held and all this stuff. And it's quite extraordinary and be a, 5 hour conversation.
Right,
But
right. S-
in reality, it's like I just like go back to Dr. Irving Kirsch. This is
mhm.
non-deceptive placebo, and
Yeah,
you get to heal
yeah,
yourself.
yeah. So you had mentioned being on Zoom and doing groups and one-on-one. Do you see people in person as well?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I used to have I live in Arizona, and I used to have an office down in Phoenix,
Okay.
but I live in Flagstaff full time
Hmm.
now. And because of the COVID issues, I
Right.
shut down everyone wanted to do Zoom. And what's
Yeah.
fascinating about Zoom sessions is what the research says, not just my anecdotal evidence, but what research actually says over the last 4 years of sociologists looking at this stuff. And we're talking about talk therapy and hypnotherapy and
Hmm.
a doctor's appointment, things like that, is that Zoom sessions work as well as in person. And there's
Yeah.
actually been research that shows that Zoom sessions work better
Yeah.
than in person because people feel relaxed and
Right.
comfortable in their homes. Um, they feel safe in their homes. And if you live in
Right.
a big city, if you live in Houston, you live in San Diego, you live in New York, you don't have to drive across town on a Friday
Right.
afternoon trying to get to your
Or
appointment.
after your session to get back in
Or
your
if,
car and have to deal with traffic and everything
yeah,
else,
you're all
so they can
relaxed
just
and
stay
wonderful and
there in that
yeah,
state for a while, yeah, and just kind of process through it and just relax into it or even just take a nap after.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so what's extraordinary, right? So I see people in person in Flagstaff. My
Hmm.
wife runs the Northern Arizona Massage and Wellness Clinic, of which
Oh,
I'm
nice.
a part. And
Yeah.
but mainly I'd say 85% of my sessions are over Zoom
Right.
and not, to kind of toot my own horn, but to kind of show you the reach of this
Yeah.
is that a couple of weeks ago I was working with a professional basketball player in Iceland, and he got
My
my name
goodness.
from his friend who lives in Puerto Rico, who I worked with.
Yeah, nice.
So there's that book that came out some years ago, The World is Flat, is because we can now have this reach because
Hmm.
of the internet, because of things like Zoom and Skype and all these other kind
Yeah.
of things, Riverside and all these ways of
Right.
reaching people through video. I mean, this is the Jetsons, right? The
Yeah.
video phone or something. This is pretty extraordinary. And so I
Absolutely.
do Zoom sessions. I love seeing people in person.
Hmm.
If people have the ability to come up to Flagstaff, we're right near the Grand Canyon, right near Sedona, Arizona.
Okay. Yeah.
But the name of my practice is Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy, which is a
Yep.
mouthful, I know. But if you just Google search Flagstaff hypnosis, you'll find me.
Okay. Yeah.
Arizona
And
Integrative Hypnotherapy and Craig Meriwether. And yeah,
yeah,
if you want to chit chat,
we'll have those links in the description. And you also have aceanytest.com
oh
is
yeah, yeah, yeah.
another
Oh,
website of
thank you for
yours.
mentioning that. Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the things I've been working with people over the years is test anxiety, and whether
Yeah.
you're a junior high school student or a high school student or a college student
Yeah.
trying to get into law school with the LSATs or MCATs for medical school, or you're graduating trying to do the bar exam, or you're
Yeah.
60-year-old wanting to get your real estate license and you
Right.
haven't taken a test in 45 years. There's this nervousness around tests, or let
Hmm.
alone auditions for musicians or actors or public
Yeah.
speaking phobia. And while I've been working with people, and what I kind of saw is there wasn't a comprehensive course about how to deal with it. A couple books on
Hmm.
Amazon, a bunch of 5-minute videos on YouTube. And so I created Ace Any Test, which is this online course you can use to help deal with the anxiety around taking exams. And it's
Yeah.
just simple, aceanytest.com, and that's a little bit easier to remember. So
Yeah.
you can email me through either place.
Yeah, both of those. So the aceanytest.com, there's also a link to that on your Arizona Integrative
Yeah.
Hypnotherapy.com. So
Yeah.
if you have that one, go to there. You can find all of his information and all that he has to offer. There's so much we didn't even touch on, and I
Oh,
would love to have you back.
yeah, absolutely, 100%. And that's what's extraordinary about it. Consciousness, mind,
Oh my
time,
goodness, so
memory.
much,
It's wild, and
so
it's
much.
so
Yeah,
thrilling and so interesting to learn about.
yeah,
Again, let alone going to the more esoteric, mystical
right,
side of things,
right. There's just so
the more
much.
spiritual side. So, yeah, it's definitely could be a long series
Yeah,
of talks and conversations,
yeah.
kind of like back in the day with Joseph Campbell, because there's so much to go
Hmm.
into. But
Oh my
it's a
goodness.
it's a
Yeah.
fascinating thing, and to to be able to heal, even though you walk in not really remembering or understanding or even knowing what the problem is. You just don't
Yeah.
feel well. You
Yeah.
hurt, and that tension and that pressure you feel in your heart or your head or your low back or wherever,
Hmm.
it's like you've had enough. And it's
Yeah.
that intention to heal is what's going to allow you to heal.
Yeah, that lump in your throat, the tightness in your chest, or the butterflies always in your stomach, all kinds of, yeah, it's just all connected. It's all connected, and it's so fascinating.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you so
Yeah,
much
you're
for
welcome,
being
Pamela.
on. And is there anything else that you want people to know, or anything else you want to share before we go?
I said just one real quick point because I think it's really important to really understand this. What you practice, you get better at.
Yeah,
And because a lot of people just say, well, I don't feel happy. I don't feel joyful. And yes, there might be some deeper healing around that needs to happen.
yeah,
But it's also an aspect of life that, well, you just may be practicing feeling depressed and
mm,
sad and grief-stricken and afraid.
yeah,
And while you grew up in an unsafe household, you don't have to feel like that as an adult. And again, maybe there's some deeper healing that needs to happen. But
yeah,
like anything, like looking at your physical health, there's a certain relentlessness to your mental and emotional health too. There's always going to be challenges in life.
yeah,
And so what are you doing every day? Every day you got to watch what you eat, what you drink. Hopefully exercise in some way, take the stairs instead of the elevator,
hmm,
whatever it may be, walk at lunch. But what are you doing for your emotional health and your mental health? That's super important too.
it
And even
absolutely
if you have
is.
just
Yeah,
5 minutes, again, the Dalai Lama, 90 years old, still meditating.
right.
Because read his books, he talks about the anger and the sorrow and the despair of what's going on in Tibet, let alone the rest of the world. But he doesn't want that to be who he is. So every day he
Yeah,
practices loving kindness and compassion. That's his work.
yeah,
That's what he does. So
yeah,
what are you doing?
right.
And there's all sorts of little techniques and tools and exercise you can do just in 5 minutes to help reset yourself. So, just know that you have the ability to create that joy and that happiness. May take a little work because of some hurt and pain you experienced in
Yeah.
your life that you may not even remember. That intuition is telling you maybe there's
Hmm.
something going on. But other than that, you know, you may need to add some techniques to your daily routine to
Yeah, a daily
build yourself
practice
up.
to,
Yeah.
yeah, to practice something different if you want
Yeah. Yeah.
something different. Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again so much for being here. It just
Oh, you're
was
welcome,
such an
Pamela.
amazing conversation, and I'm sure that people have learned from you today. And I know that I've learned from you today as well, and I
Awesome.
know we will talk again. So
Definitely. All
thanks.
right.